This is Dashboard, or Dash for short. And basically think of it like My Western in the fact that it's a heads-up display of information and access points to your site. And just like My Western, you can move the modules around and collapse them as you see fit. Collapsing them is just simply grabbing this little triangle and letting them expand or contract. And moving them is simply grabbing the bar and moving them to each of the 4 columns that you have across your screen. Now you'll also notice you get statistics on your site. You'll notice that when you first get started, you don't have any because nobody's visiting your site because it's behind our wall. You'll also notice the name of your site, this blog, and the site title of it, the theme, the privacy, and also the storage. You'll notice that you have 500 megs or 1/2 a gig of storage. Every WordPress site at Western does. And also bear in mind that your uploads, each individual file has to be less than 50 megs. So that's the only 2 real caps that you have working with our WordPress environment here. So that is Dashboard when you first log in. Across the top, a couple of nomenclature and waypoints to understand with WordPress. This black bar across the top, or it may be blue or purple or whatever color that you've picked. This always stays here when you're in building mode for WordPress. And on the left-hand side, this is your content manager. This is actually the content management side, CMS, Content Management System of WordPress. So for instance, Dashboard, that's where we're at. You'll see that we'll have posts and media and pages and users, and I'll go over the parts that typically you're going to be doing in any given class or portfolio setting that you may be using this for. So for starters, let's go ahead and let me show you a couple of key points of settings. So if we go over and we hover over settings, you notice that we get a hover. So don't just click on it, just hover over it and you'll see this pop out. And let's start with general. When you go to settings in general, this is the general settings of your WordPress site. So for instance, if you needed to change that site title, test blog, for instance. You also can adjust things like your tagline, which I'll show you what that looks like when we get to themes. You can also change your time zone in case you're writing abroad and you need your time zone to be updated. This is where you would be able to do it. Whenever you're in settings, please take note, hit the Save Changes button on the bottom. This is a common thing that I see. If you just navigate away and not hit that blue bar, you're not prompted. So if you do make any changes here, notice that it went back to what I had it before, AJ test site for real this time. Be sure to hit the blue button. Otherwise, when you navigate away, all the changes and settings that you've done won't stick. The next one I want to go through is writing. Let's take a look at writing. And this is kind of a big deal, and the reason why this video exists is because as of about a month ago, our WordPress environment has updated using what's called Core 5, and that's the latest and greatest version of WordPress. And it uses this new editor called Block Editor, and it's really, really cool. If you're familiar with Wix or Weebly or Squarespace, you're gonna feel right at home, as opposed to the classic editor. And what I typically like to do is turn on this button that says allow users to switch editor, not this one that says default editors for all users. Allow yourself to switch, and I'll show you the difference between the 2 interfaces. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit yes to allow users to switch editor and hit save changes. Great, now that that's been applied, now you'll be able to see the difference between the 2 editors. Last but not least is reading. And this is where you're gonna go when you're completely done and you're ready to change that visibility setting, that privacy setting. Notice that mine is set for only registered users. I can change that one ratchet up if I wanna make it just admins, and be sure to hit the blue Save Changes button. Or if I was ready to go public, I could change it to the allow search engines to index and allow the site to go out and have Google and Facebook and everybody else crawl it eventually. Remember, we don't Western doesn't have control over how fast a site gets crawled by these search engines. It can take up to 2 weeks to a month for your name and the name of your site to really get into their algorithms. So do be a little bit patient. And if you're interested on how to submit your site using, especially Google, because that's kind of the one that everybody wants to be on, there is some tools through Google Analytics. And if you're interested in that, feel free to stop by my office and I can show you how you might be able to submit your site and kind of get on Google's radar a little bit faster. For this, I'm just going to go ahead and keep it at only admins can visit our site. And let's go ahead and make some content. So the first thing that everybody kind of asks is, hey, what does my site look like? Well, if we go to the top bar that always stays when you're in WordPress, you have what I call the neighborhood icon. That's the series of 3 houses, and the home icon. The home icon will always change based off of what site you're on. So mine says AJ Test Site for Real this time, and I can hit view my site or edit or clone. When we go to the neighborhood, however, and this will be important especially if you're in English 101, Art 109, when you're working in a class site that you've been attached to, you'll have to, when you first log in, you'll have to go to the neighborhood icon and go to the site that is your class site. And this is a little bit different because typically speaking, when you're working with WordPress for yourself, you just go to the site that you're working on, which is cool. But when you're doing multiple sites and you're added to different sites here in your academic career at Western, go to the neighborhood icon, go to the name of the site once you've been added. So for instance, Art 109, yours is React Research and Execute, and click on Dashboard. And what that will do is it will change the dash, and you'll notice that the home icon now changes to React Research and Execute. And that's how you'll know that you're correctly doing your post on the right site. So I'm going to show you again how to change. I'm going to go to my sites or the neighborhood icon. I'm going to go down to where it says AJ Test Site for Real this time and go to Dashboard. And again, my home icon changes. So before we make content, let's go ahead and take a look at our site. Let's hover on the home icon and hit Visit Site, and that will take me to our site. Now, this is the theme 16. I pretty much hate this theme, and I'll show you how to change it after we make content. And this is kind of a philosophical thing that I want to start off with before we start going into WordPress proper. The difference between a website builder and a content management system. Website builder, kind of like Wix, Weebly, and Squarespace, you're building a website and you're kind of putting up things as you're kind of creating content. Content management system is in reverse. And this is where you actually create content first and allow the platform to best present it to you second. I like to use the analogy of, if you remember the first time you learned perhaps PowerPoint, it's really easy to go down that real big spiral of creativity, darkness, of adding every animation and timing and flying and transitions and not have any content on your PowerPoint whatsoever. But it's pretty. And that's how I kind of see a lot of WordPress. You really want to focus on your content first and pick a theme and features that best support presenting it. Because you can go to a website and it looks great and tells the person reading it nothing. So start with content first and then we'll theme second. Because also, the way the WordPress works, if you don't have content, the theme's not going to be able to show you a lot of what it can do for your content if you don't have it first.